Hello, everybody. We're going to talk about a personal journey because our surroundings have such impact on our productivity, on our mindset, on whether our minds have a clean slate or not, especially when we wear a lot of hats. So I have worn a lot of hats throughout my creative career and will continue to, as I'm sure that you will, whether it be licensing art or authoring books and getting into that zone, teaching courses, all of these things that we do to really build a thriving business. I'm going to share my personal journey with you while I give you some actionable tips that I think will really help you, because when I started designing a workspace for myself, it was like a functional sanctuary. Inspiration was flowing, creativity was flowing. I just felt like it was a pivotal point that helped me nurture my spirit artistically, if you will. So before we dive into the details, I just want to share why this means so much to me as a creative, because I feel like, I've been through my fair share of challenges for sure. I struggled right off the bat between just finding a balance between work and creativity, and I think that my workspace felt a lot more like a hindrance than my place that I would want to do anything in. And since I started working from home, I felt like if I was home, I was at work, period. So I remember also the days where my workspaces just didn't click. And it affected my productivity. It stifled my creativity. It made me feel uninspired. It's taken me a little while to embrace your style and your surroundings and what you need to really thrive and drive you. It's ever changing and evolving to match where you're at in a moment. And so ever since I started adopting that, I've been able to much better feel empowered to do my best work, if that makes sense. So today, I am sharing not just how I overcame those challenges and designed a workspace that really truly inspires me every day, but also for you to spark your creativity in your creative nook, whether it be a cozy corner of your home or a dedicated room that is a dedicated studio. So before I take you through my own setup, we'll look at the very essence of why having a creative workspace that is a place where you can thrive is an absolute game changer. I'm wording it that way intentionally because I think it goes hand in hand. So first things first, why is a dedicated creative workspace so crucial for artists? So this is I've written books, so I know. This is like writing a book in the midst of absolute chaos. You can't try to catch a butterfly in a storm, right? Don't try to catch a butterfly though. They want to fly free. But as artists, we thrive on focus, on inspiration, and just the ability to allow our creative flow to fly free, right? And that's where our creative workspace plays a huge part. It's not just a physical location. It is your cocoon of creativity. And the right environment can do wonders for productivity and creativity. So much of it is mental, it's in our heads, what I have available to me right here or not, what I don't have available to me will absolutely impact my productivity. So this is where your personal workflow and materials and comfort level come into play, identifying your unique needs. So believe it or not, your workflow can indeed be seamless. I know, it's mind-blowing. But if you're a calligrapher, for example, having a variety of pens and inks that are just readily accessible can save so much time on setup, because you don't have to figure out where stuff is. You don't have to figure out, well, what should I create? It's there. You know what you're reaching in for, you don't have to battle along setup. I mean, that's how I feel when I film videos. If I don't have what I need to film, if my mic isn't plugged in or if my camera isn't charged, just little things like this, it makes a huge difference. And then comfort. Okay, please, for the love of your precious body, don't go for the most aesthetically pleasing chair, anything, desk. If it's not going to support you, you're just not going to be able to do the work that is most beneficial. I have experienced the consequences of overlooking ergonomics in every aspect of my job, whether it be doing what I do now or when I used to do hair. Just even having a chair that doesn't properly support your back, or like, okay, I used to have a desk that I had to like squeeze my legs underneath because I like to be up a little higher. But the desk had these drawers that like, they were aesthetically beautiful. Like, of course I wanted that, but I like was very uncomfortable for a year and a half or so, and that resulted in me not really wanting to spend a lot of time at my desk. Like, think about your favorite chair to hang out in your home. Maybe it's like your couch and you have like your little corner, like your cushion. Like, it should be the same for your workspace chair, your desk, like that, making you feel at ease, essentially is what I'm saying. Not like relax into it, want to fall asleep, but make you feel at ease. So when you choose a chair, make sure you have good lumbar support, or, keep your back happy during those long days and things like that. Like, adjustability is the key to fine tuning your unique body. This is funny. So I have a pretty good chair. I have two, actually. I use two different ones, ergonomic choices and whatnot. I'll show you this one. So this is the second chair that I use, and I often use this when I'm creating art. This guy spins around. It lets me sit in a bunch of different positions, which is great for when I am being creative. And then I have my regular chair, which does have great support, but as it turns out, my other half purchased a seat cushion for Father's Day for her dad. And he did not like it for whatever reason. So she comes home and she says, he didn't like this seat cushion I got him. If you want to try it out, you should. And I kid you not, I sat on it one time. This is what it looks like. And it has this ergonomic, like, tailbone is out. Like, it is so nice, you guys. It's so nice. And I sit on this thing and I swear, like, my sciatica doesn't act up. All these things that were compounding my body forever. Like, anyway, it's worth it. These little things are worth it. So your creative journey should be a joy, not a strain. That's what I'm trying to get at. And comfort aside, though, there are plenty of things that are ideal to have readily accessible in your space. I realized that I needed quick access to my books quite often, especially when I'm teaching. So I actually dedicated a little spot above my workspace to hold those books. You can see them right here. Okay. Which is kind of nice because, well, first of all, it might seem small. It's made a world of difference, though. Having them here does a few things. One, it makes it so it's easily accessible. But two, not to mention, depending on the angle of my camera and how I'm on for a live or whatever, if it's a course, it's kind of subliminal. Hello, kitty. It's kind of subliminal messaging to buy my books. It's like built-in marketing right behind me. So I want you to ask yourself the following questions. I've got these going throughout this session, so you're gonna have some questions come up now and later, but the first one I want you to write down and ask is, how do you typically work on your creative projects? So is it digital? Is it traditional? Do you use mixed media? What kind of tools are you using? The second is, are there specific stages in your creative process that require distinct workstations or tools? And then, do you need space for reference materials, sketching, brainstorming, anything like that? Now, this is your section on workflow. The next one we're going to cover is materials. So what are your primary art mediums and tools? This might be watercolor, paintbrushes, your tablet, things like this. What do you need to do your creative flow, material-wise? Secondly, do you have a variety of materials that need organized storage? So this could be your paints, your brushes, your markers, where do they live? Next is, are there specific materials that you use frequently that should be easily accessible? So I might love paint pens. I might want them on hand. I might want them easy to access, but do I need to use them very regularly? Not as much. So I prioritize the ones that are going to come up again and again. So you don't have to finish all of this right now, although I kind of want you to. So you can press pause and finish every question, because as we figure this out and work it out, you're going to be able to have a clearer plan. But the next one is comfort and ergonomics. Ask this question to yourself: how long do you typically spend working on your art projects in one sitting? Next is your current workspace, chair, and desk set up for comfort for extended periods? When I say that, I mean, you know your body. You know when you start to feel a certain thing. Be honest with yourself. Next is, do you have proper lighting to reduce eye strain during creative sessions? Okay, so personal story real quick. When I first started doing this, we lived in a very small 600 square foot apartment that the only place that would make sense for me to be able to work was essentially what they would call our dining room, dining area. It's like just barely off the kitchen before it turns into the bathroom or the living room, or like they're smaller. So I just had this small little nook, and it was completely across the room from any sort of natural light source. It just didn't exist because we had one wall that had windows. One of the windows was in the bedroom. The other window was the sliding glass door, which was all the way across. So I had to get creative, and I had to get lighting because, one, I didn't want to create in darkness. I didn't want to create in the gloomy corner. Secondly, when I started teaching, especially, that I needed to have clear lighting. I needed it to be easy to digest the information that I was providing. So I needed to look into that. And I learned the hard way over and over what lights worked well on camera, what made those banding, if you've ever seen that. So I had to look into all of these things. I also learned that mixing lighting temperatures would result in colors not looking quite right, weird shadows, weird temperatures. But the more that I committed to establishing what worked for me and my unique workflow, the better I was able to perform. So over time, this constantly evolves. Fast forward a few years, we're in a house, and I chose to make this room my workspace. It's a spot with natural light. Right behind me, there's a window, and the window overlooks our little garden. This was a game changer. It's a bright, natural light that totally lifts my spirits, and it has a peaceful environment. I get to watch the sweet critters outside, the little squirrels and birds. It allows my creativity to flourish much more, and that encompasses all the hats that I need to wear. I will mention, as you could see just now, it is a gloomy day. I also noticed that I have a north-facing window. I didn't think about that necessarily before, but I also didn't have a bunch of choices in this home. I'm not complaining. I have a whole room dedicated to what I love to do, but I also am using artificial light for that reason that matches the daylight. So these are things that we work out as we can. So if you're able to, settle into a space that just bathes you in natural light. You can't go wrong with it. But something to ponder, I mean, some of us are night owls. I say us, I'm not one of them. Some of you are night owls, and a well-lit workspace, even at night, can keep your creative fires burning. My favorite lighting for this is actually what I'm using right now, and this is what I would use at night and do use at night when we have our very early winter evenings here in the Pacific Northwest. So I have them on right now. The first one is just above my left here. So this is an LED barn door panel. Honestly, I don't really use these as anything. And I actually point these right up to the ceiling rather than being directly on me, because that works for me. If it is night, these are, you can change the temperature, you can change the brightness, etc. So they're very nice. The second one that I love is a pancake light. So it looks similar. It's not quite a ring light. It's completely solid, also pointed up toward the ceiling a bit. So you can see how the lighting is looking as it splashes back toward me. Now that's not always the case. It will depend on environment, but I typically film at this angle. I'm under a window. I have my lights set up, always different, but these are the lights that I personally love. They're not terribly expensive in comparison to a lot. I'll link them for you so that you can see them as well. The other one that I like is the canvas lamp. It is a smaller ring light style, and you can connect your phone to it, which is nice, and it can see through it or face down. Also different temperatures. All three that I'm showing you are different temperature adjustable and also brightness level can be adjusted. Now, I could go into lighting and tech and all that all day long. My point is to have that nice well-lit space that you can thrive inside of. Reducing distractions. This is equally vital. If you have a choice, avoid any high traffic areas where family members or roommates or whatever that they're passing through. It's not always possible, but if you can just make your creative space more like your sanctuary and a place that you can fully immerse yourself in your art. I realize this is often easier said than done. So what I have done, even though I do have a door, is I have a sign that I put on the other side of my door. I even turn it on because it makes me happy. And it's usually with moments like this and it says recording. So I could change this to whatever I wanted, but it's just my way of saying, hey, not right now. Leave me alone. Not right now. I am busy. And that's just how I communicate. So I can keep that boundary for myself, because if I get distracted, I will really get distracted. And sometimes I don't remember to come back to what I was doing for a week. This is just the truth. So I've got some more questions that I want you to consider. And this is surrounding your workspace. The first is, where is your creative workspace located and how does it affect your creative focus? The next one is, are there any distractions in your workspace that hinder your productivity? And the next is, can you designate a quiet and well-lit area for your creative activity? Now, I suggest to take a moment to assess the available spaces that you have if you don't have one set yet. It could be a corner of your living room. It could be a spare bedroom. It could be a dedicated studio. Think about also how natural, if you have choices, think about how natural light changes throughout the day and whether there are any distracting elements. All of these things come into play. Like I said, being directly under a window, great, sure, but because mine is north facing, it kind of makes it difficult to snag good lighting without the assistance of these lights. Otherwise, I know late afternoon is my money spot. That is where I'm able to actually get good quality lighting without all the assistance on my desk right here. So these are things to know about your workspace. Your goal is to establish a creative space for yourself where you can dive into your flow effortlessly, or as effortlessly as possible. Okay. Organization for tools and materials. This is not just about tidiness and comfort. It's about unlocking your creative potential by eliminating distractions and staying focused on what gets you the most productive. I was actually really surprised about a little productivity hack about myself that I'll share in a moment. I think you might surprise yourself too. But I remember, especially in the beginning of my artistic journey, my workspace resembled a bit of a chaotic art supply store after a tornado. Sometimes it felt like I was spending more time searching for or deciding on the right color or tool than actually creating. I was really spending my time too much of that. So an organized workspace, it enhances focus. Duh, Peggy, I get it. It's not duh though, because these little things that we can do for ourselves that clear the path to allow our creative thoughts to flow freely are game changing. It's about commitment. So you might already know these things, but when you commit to doing things that are going to help you, I'm getting into it in a minute, we can pour more of our energy into what matters and what we want to create rather than what we feel we have to, or pressure of any kind. We can channel our energy into our creation. So practical tips time. I would say to consider using transparent containers for your paints, your markers, your brushes. This makes it easy so that you can see what you have at a glance. You can label them if you need to. You can create designated zones for different art mediums. For example, have a section for watercolor and maybe one for acrylic and so on. It just reduces the time spent rummaging. And another is to utilize vertical storage. So that's shelves or pegboards, wall-mounted organizers. Anything like that can save you precious workspace real estate and keep your materials within reach. Talking about these books up there makes a difference, and they're out of the way. The real magic to the organized workspace is it's a personal one. I have had my fair share of trial and error, and it really is ever evolving. Some of you might find that organizing by color or by frequency of use, those types of things might work better for you than doing it by medium. So your path might be different, and that's fine. The whole point, what matters, is finding the system that works for you and resonates with you in your creative process, right now. What works for you right now might not be what works for you in a year. That's okay. It doesn't mean you haven't nailed down a system. It just means what's working for you right now. My example, I put everything in organizers that I could see. It was always up, always easy to access, but I wasn't creating. This is my epiphany, okay? I actually realized that my brain needed restrictions. It needed the options to be removed from sight so that I could be more intentional with what it was I wanted to create. It's so weird. I thought having it in front of me would be like what stimulated my creation. And for a lot of people, that is. For me, it just kind of shut it all down. So I wanted to grab supplies based off of what my gut was saying to create instead. So rather than packing everything up, I merged these two ideas together of having everything on display, but also having it tucked away. So my example is I have drawers that are accessible in my space. They are pretty and they don't take up noise. And then I open the drawer and everything is still in clear organizers, easy to understand. I see where things are. I have my pens. I have my paints. I have everything that I need, easy to access. It's all organized. And this is my entire space. Any drawer that is in here has this very clear designated purpose. I know exactly where things are. I know where to grab them. I'm not distracted. So remember, organization is not just about appearances. It is about boosting your creative flow. So some more questions to ask yourself. This is on organization and efficiency. One is, how organized is your current workspace and what areas need improvement? The second one, are there storage solutions or organization tools that would enhance your workspace? The third is, can you create dedicated zones for specific creative tasks to improve your workflow? Okay, now on to my favorite part, personalization of your creative workspace. So this is where the true magic happens. I know I've said magic a lot, but this is where it really is happening, because this is where you can infuse your unique personality. This makes it your creative haven. Your workflow, so important. We could talk aesthetics all day, but workflow is where it's at. After that, let's polish. So in my early days, my workspace was super generic. It was uninspiring. It was devoid of personal touches. It felt like I was working in a sterile environment, It felt like I was working at home, And that's kind of what made that balance just non-existent. But my creativity did struggle a bit. Personalization it can be your muse. And when you surround yourself with things that resonate and that inspire you, colors, artwork, quotes and mementos, these things can create an environment where inspiration and creativity really flourishes and thrives. So some personal touches that I have infused in my space. The closet here used to be a hot mess. I thought it was great because, again, I wanted everything visible. I wanted to be able to see everything. And so I had my shelving all set up in a very strategic way where I knew where everything was. But the problem was it was an eyesore. It was an eyesore. I don't know how else to say it. And so I splurged on this cabinet I had had my eye on forever that really didn't fit our house too much, but it really would have done well in my creative space. And so I gave myself that gift after a while. I took this shelving out of the closet, I put this cabinet in, and it brings me so much joy, and I just love it. Another thing that I've done is really incorporated white. That may change in next month, I don't know, but I have a white desk, I have white drawers, I have this, again, the white cabinet, I have white fixtures like my lamp. Things like this have brought more light into this room because it is darker. Another thing that I have done is put up little trinkets and desk buddies. And this is the stuff that really fuels me and makes me feel the most creative. And it goes without saying, but I have a massive wall mural that has brought me so much joy. This is the third mural that's been on this wall, the fourth overall paint job I've done in here in the last, has it been 4 years? I don't know. But in a short amount of time, this wall has seen some changes. And I think that that is okay. I think that it's important to be able to say hey, I may have worked really hard on this mural, but it's time for a change. And so I did that with a moody dark green, kept that for a year or two. And then I decided that it was time for an energy drink for the eyes because I felt different. And it was just, when I needed that grounding space, I had it. Now when I need this bright, vibrant energy, I've got that. So I would say lean into how you're feeling. So some ideas for you might be quotes that really resonate with your creative journey. They could serve as daily reminders of your artistic goals and aspirations. You might want to display some artwork that you love. So it could be your own creations. It might be pieces from other artists that you love. It could even be family art. I have a mix of all three. Definitely incorporate colors that inspire you. And that's okay that if it's momentary, you might have a different color every day, and you can put something in your space that feeds into that. So for me, I've gone through those phases of having those soothing greens and browns and those earthy grounding colors. And then this with like red and peach and purple, just super loud, Because my goodness, the power that color has, it has such a profound impact on our creativity, on our psyche. I've done many sessions on color, generally speaking, especially with the psychology behind them and how color can invoke serene peace, tranquility, or then there's energy, excitement, aggression even. So when you choose a color scheme for where you're at right now, you can set the tone for your creative sessions and the flow of them, enhancing them. So I would consider how you want to feel during your creative moments. You can incorporate colors that lean into these feelings in your workspace through paint, through decor, through artwork, even furniture, and you can start small. So this could be like colorful cushions or, a pillow or one piece of artwork, a vibrant rug that leans into that creative style that you're feeling. Essentially, it should reflect your passions. Your whole workspace is your dreams, your quirks, if you will. It's a canvas. So my message to you is simple. Don't be afraid to decorate your space with what is inspiring to you. That might look like a seashell from a memorable beach trip. It might look like a vintage typewriter. It might look like a cherished family photograph. Those possibilities are endless. If you make it uniquely yours, you will find that every time that you step into that space, you are greeted by an old friend. Inspiration. Okay, all this being said, we could conclude here, but I do want to also give attention to the delicate art of creating a balanced work-life environment within your creative workspace when it's also your home. If it's not at your home, you'll have an easier time doing this, but then that's a matter of turning your notifications off and not looking at your phone and all those things. But let's talk about this. You really want to ensure that your sanctuary doesn't become a 24/7 workspace. The key is to set boundaries so that your creativity is nurtured without burnout. First, your designated workspace is your work zone. And when you step into this zone, you are in work mode. If this means creativity, I want you to replace it with that. But I just really want to set those boundaries. So work, creativity, whatever you want to swap that word out for, because I know we don't all have the same goals here, but essentially that is your dedicated zone. When you're in your dedicated zone, that's what time it is. When you step out of it, it's time for personal life. It's time to allow yourself breathing space. Second, set hours and stick to them. When it comes to work, think about it like having a traditional job, and that's going to ensure that you don't overwork, that you don't blur the lines between work and leisure, and that you don't burn out. Third, I would invest in technology or personal boundaries. So again, stick to separate rooms if you can, turn notifications off, use dividers or curtains if you don't have a door, anything that you can do, big or small, to give yourself that space. And then one last point that's really, 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 really crucial is just the same way as we maintain organization of supplies and tools, we have to do that as a whole. So that makes sure that it remains a source of focus and inspiration. If it doesn't remain that way when you walk into it, it was pointless to do all of that work to begin with. So the first question on this one is, how can you maintain a clutter-free workspace to boost focus and creativity? Clutter can be the enemy of creativity. It's crucial to regularly declutter your workspace as a whole. So if you set aside time each week or each month to go through your materials and supplies, you can donate or recycle items that you're not using, and you can organize what is left over. And the next one is establishing routines and habits that regularly keep yourself organized. And consistency is key. consistency, because you want to make it a habit to file away loose paper at the end of the day, clean your brushes, shut down any tech, return your supplies to their designated spots. It might seem small. These routines maintain order and save you time. And the next time that you walk into your workspace, you will be thanking yourself because you have a clean slate. So, question time. What routines or habits can you establish to keep your workspace organized? And this last question is fun because it allows you to pivot. Creative people just love changing their minds. It's just the truth. But do you have a plan for periodically evaluating and optimizing your workspace? So these questions are strategic because if you don't, you will have to have them. You will then put them into place. And again, your needs and preferences are ever changing. They're going to change over time. So it is essential for you to review and optimize your workspace periodically, and consider doing this, I would say, every few months. Just assess what's working and what could use some improvement. And just remember that just as we continually refine our skills and explore these new outlets, with dedication and care, you can do the same, where it will remain a place where inspiration really knows no boundaries. Now, I know I had you write all this out, but I've also compiled all of these questions that I have asked you into a downloadable worksheet so that you can really be guided through customizing your workspace with artistic needs and preferences of your own. So as you craft this perfect creative sanctuary for yourself, let's be real, nothing is perfect, but as you craft the perfect creative sanctuary for yourself, I want to highlight some key points that we've covered. So we've learned that your workspace is not just a physical location. It's a cocoon of creativity. It's a place where inspiration thrives. We've emphasized the importance of customizing your workspace to suit your unique needs, whether you're a watercolor artist, a digital creator, or anything in between. We've looked at the significance of location, ergonomics, organization, personalization, and the magic of colors and decor in enhancing your creative flow. And we have explored the need to set boundaries for a healthy work-life balance. So your workspace can be much more than a place to just create. It can be a reflection of your artistic journey. It can be a catalyst to your imagination. That being said, I hope this was inspirational for you. I hope that you have some ideas of what you want to incorporate in your own space. Until next time, my fellow creatives, I will see you so soon.